Shalom, people. I am Brother D.I.K., and this is the American Israelite. Today, I'm bringing you the rest of the interview by Captain Ibrahim Traoré, President of Burkina Faso. But before I do that, right, I want to talk to you about this particular piece of shite, this marshmallow of a man. Edomite fuck. He's a goddamn schmuck. He wants to censor the internet. He wants to violate our First Amendment right to express our ideas. Now, there's an article written by a Cindy Harper from Reclaim the Net, right? The title of the article is ADL Regional Director, that's him, David Goldberg, calls for government-regulated online censorship. He wants to turn his vision of moderation into mandate. He wants to recast Silicon Valley as the frontline enforcers of acceptable thought. Of acceptable thought. You hear this bullshit? Now, I don't know about you. I mean, Americans. I can't speak for people all around the planet. But here in America, we have the First Amendment, right? We have the right to express ourselves, freedom of speech, to exchange ideas, even if those ideas are less than palatable, less than favorable. And he wants to dictate to us what's acceptable. Fuck you, David Goldberg. Fuck the ADL. Fuck George Soros, and fuck Bibi Netanyahu. Now, I will ask my fellow Americans to pardon my language, but you know how we get down in the States. This piece of shite really wants to censor us. Now, let me just read a little bit of what the goddamn article says. The Anti-Defamation League's David Goldberg is demanding a broad overhaul of how speech is governed on the internet, calling for both government intervention and intensified corporate censorship. Get the fuck out of here. Get the fuck out of here. In a recent appearance, Goldberg, who heads the ADL's Midwest operations, expressed frustration over what he sees as declining efforts by tech firms to suppress online content that he deems hateful. Are you fucking kidding me? Citing Meta's rollback of its fact-checking team in the United States, he argued that platforms must be forced to take action. So listen to him. Must be forced. Forced by who? Forced by who? Who's going to force them? The government? The government is not going to, what is the word I'm looking for here? They're not going to censor us. We have a fundamental First Amendment right to say what we want to say as long as it's not hateful, as long as it's true. The only speech that's not protected is like, even hate speech is protected. This is why the Ku Klux Klan can operate with impunity. Deviant shit is not protected as freedom of speech. But let me go. He argued that platforms must be forced to take action. Quote, you have a platform like Meta that just gutted its entire fact-checking department. And so what we need to do is we need to apply pressure in a real significant way on tech platforms that they have to show them that they have a responsibility, that they have an absolute responsibility to check and remove hateful speech that is insightful. Hate speech is protected under the First Amendment. I urge the President of the United States, the Congress and the Senate, the Supreme Court to protect and enforce and empower and again, protect the First Amendment. Fuck David Goldberg and what he's talking about. Goldberg advocated not just for voluntary moderation, but for legislative and regulatory measures, both at the federal and state level, that would compel platforms to act as speech enforcers. Fuck you, David Goldberg. Fuck the ADL. Fuck everybody who wants to censor American speech. We're not going to do it. And it's only about you, right? Because why aren't we censoring speech against black people, speech against Latino people, speech against white people, you know, the people, white Anglo-Saxon Protestants, right? Why aren't we protecting everybody? Why just you? Why just the ADL? Why anti-Semitism? Why not anti-black, anti-Latino? Why not? Right? Because you say so. Shit that you deem. Anyway, that would compel platforms to act as speech enforcers. He pointed to efforts in states like California, fuck California, as examples of where local governments are already testing such models. Fuck California. Fuck California. Fuck Cali. That's Mexico anyway. His concern centers around what he perceives as an ecosystem of radicalization made easily accessible by today's digital infrastructure. He warned that extremist ideologies no longer require obscure forums or dark web communities to spread. So, what the fuck? And what's wrong with an extreme ideology, right? My Jewish brothers consider all human beings who are not Jews as goyim, which means nation, roughly. But we know that you really mean subhuman. We know that. I'm a Jew. I know that, right? Even I consider the bulk of humanity not equal to me, right? I know that's how you feel. And I don't mean that they're less than me in the sense that they're not human beings, but they don't have the position that I have with the Most High God of our fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. That aside, fuck you, which you're trying to censor us. I'm going to say what I want to say. Fuck you and the ADL. I don't really give a shit. Now, here's another quote by him. It used to be you had to fight going into the dark web. Now it's easier and easier to be exposed in the mainstream, he said. Framing the online environment as a catalyst for violence, Goldberg argued that free access to controversial viewpoints must be curtailed. Why? Why do controversial viewpoints have to be curtailed? Because you say so? Fuck you. And fuck Benjamin Netanyahu, right? Fuck all you people. Fuck all you people. Anybody who wants to censor the American people, anyone who wants to violate the First Amendment right to express and exchange ideas, even if those ideas and viewpoints are controversial, anyone who wants to go against that, white, black, Jew, or fucking Gentile, fuck the lot of you. If you want to curtail our thought, you want to you want to police our thoughts. That shit's giving me a headache right now. Fuck him. Anyway, this marshmallow motherfucker wants to censor us. And unless we do something, the fucker's going to be successful. He said that one of the reasons that there's a lot of anti-Semitism is because of these conspiracy theories that Jews control every fucking thing. Well, aren't you trying to control right now? Isn't that what you're doing by saying that you need to put pressure, that you need to make significant? Let me go back to it. Let's find it. Let's find it. That platforms must be enforced to take action, right? What we need to do, this is a quote, this is what he said. What we need to do is we need to apply pressure in a real significant way. Isn't that control, you fucking marshmallow? Isn't it? Isn't that what you're doing? Isn't that what you're exercising with the ADL, Canary Mission, and every other fucking organization that you have at your disposal to force to what is the word? Let's go back to it. I'm sorry. Must be forced. Yeah, I mean, look, platforms must be forced to who can force the platforms? Who and how? If you don't exercise any fucking control, any real power, it's just a conspiracy theory. Then how the fuck are you going to force someone to take action? How? If you don't have power, you don't got connections that'll. Because I mean, you couldn't force me to do a fucking thing. You couldn't, right? I'd rather die. I don't want to die. I don't want to die. But fuck you, David Goldberg and the ADL. Fuck y'all. Let me keep reading this little bullshit article. Um, his concerns center around what he perceives as an ecosystem of radicalization made easily accessible by today's digital infrastructure. Right? Yeah, we read all that bullshit. He is framing the online environment as a catalyst for violence. Goldberg argued that free access to controversial viewpoints must be curtailed. I just can't get over this bullshit. He called for social media companies to take a stronger stance by excluding users whose view fall outside accepted boundaries. Who set the boundaries? Who set the fucking boundaries? You a piece of shite. Fuck you. Adding that regulation should enforce this responsibility. He zeroed in on Section 230 of the Communications Decency Act, a critical piece of legislation that shields platforms from legal liability over user posted content. That's right, and they shouldn't be liable. Just like phone companies aren't liable when somebody calls and makes a threat. Just like the government, the vaccine companies aren't liable if someone perishes as a result of an inoculation. Just like the law enforcement officers are uh, not responsible, right? They're held harmless. They're immune from prosecution when they unalive people. Fuck you. This guy is a piece of shit, and somebody needs to do something about him. Congress, this is what he says. Look, Congress needs to amend Section 230. Congress does not need to do no such a thing, which provides immunity to tech platforms right now for what? For what happens. This he doesn't even speak well. I mean, I don't, right? But fuck him. He dismissed comparisons between modern platforms and telecommunications companies. Okay, so clearly, right? He knows it's the same shit. You can't hold somebody. You can't. Referencing past remarks by Facebook's Mark Zuckerberg, fuck him too, about how phone providers were not liable for threats made over calls. Goldberg's view was blunt. These tech platforms are not guaranteed under the Constitution. Yes, they are. Yeah, they are. Fuck you, because you say so. Fuck him. Anyway, from his perspective, private companies should be free to kick people off and to deplatform. And if they fail to do so voluntarily, they must be pressured or regulated into compliance. He described accountability as a mechanism for shaping behavior, stating accountability is a tool that can be incredibly effective in changing behavior. The position advanced by Goldberg reflects a broader effort to blur the line between public authority and private platform control. By demanding that companies mirror the goals of activists and lawmakers, his approach seeks to institutionalize censorship and convert digital platforms into engines of ideological enforcement. Get the what? But such a vision comes with a consequence. By urging the dismantling of legal protections and empowering both governments and corporations to decide which views should be silenced, this framework sets the stage for widespread suppression. What's framed as protection from harm becomes a template for restricting dissent, and we have the right to dissent. A narrowing the range of permissible thought in public discourse. What? Yeah, we're not doing that. We're not doing that. And the government does it, we're going to vote them out of office. And not me, but I'm going to urge white people to vote those bastards who censor the American people. We're going to vote them out of office. I'm going to influence the vote. And anybody who stands with let me just say it, anybody who stands with David Goldberg and the ADL to censor the American people, you want to censor the rest of the fucking world, you could do that. You're not censoring the American people. I don't give a shit what you say. You can go fuck yourself. You heard? Now, that aside, we're going to go, wait, real quick. Let me see if I can find this. Let me just see if I can find this. Because this guy, he's a real piece of work. Let me see if I can find it. Bear with me just a moment. Okay, so let me just read this to you, right? The free speech provisions of the First Amendment bar, means it does not allow, federal, state, and local governments from directly censoring the internet. The primary exception has to do with obscenity, including child pornography, which is not given First Amendment protection. Other than that, no holds barred. We can say whatever the fuck we want to say as long as it's the truth. And the truth is that we're not going to allow you, you Stay Puft marshmallow looking, Tinky Winky Dipsy and Lala looking ass. We're not allowing it, you chubby fucker. You can go to hell, right? You can go straight to hell. We're not allowing you to censor us. You can try that shit with the rest of the world, but we're not having it. So go fuck yourself, you and the ADL. My apologies to the American people for using such strong language, but fuck this bastard. Take a good look at him, too. I want you to take a good look at this piece of shit. Look at him. Look at him. Take a good look. Look at this fucker. I'd smack the dog shit out of you. Going to censor the American people? You're going to tell us what acceptable thought and speech is? Who the fuck are you? Fuck you. Anyway, fuck him. Let's get back to the Burkina Faso interview, the interview with Ibrahim Traoré. Go to it. As promised, I said I would.
Your Excellency, welcome to Sputnik Africa. Thank you very much for accepting our invitation. It is a great honor for our agency.
Thank you.
Your Excellency, your visit is taking place as part of the celebrations for the 80th anniversary of Russia's victory in the Great Patriotic War. Yesterday, you attended the parade on Red Square. What are your takeaways from this experience?
Real quick, people. I apologize. I'm apologizing to everybody who's watching this. I'm apologizing to my fellow Americans because I just got upset when, you know, this fucking schmuck, fucking Mashugana, decided that he thinks he has the authority and the moral high ground to determine what is acceptable thought and speech. I did a lot of cussing, and although I'm rude of speech, I'm right. So I apologize. Please, please forgive me. Let's get back to this interview.
In your opinion, how grand were the celebrations? Perhaps, which equipment impressed you the most?
All right, thank you very much. As you mentioned, the context is indeed the celebration of Russia's victory in the Great Patriotic War, as it is called. We were very impressed by the parade, especially because it began with the entire motorized section featuring vehicles, starting with the legendary T-34 tank that contributed to the victory, all the way to today's modern vehicles like the T-90s, and of course other types of missiles that have been developed. It made a big impression on us, taught us many lessons, and allowed us to see how Russia has evolved technologically in the military sphere from that great war up to today.
All right. Mr. President, why was it important for you to accept President Putin's invitation and join Russia in these celebrations?
It's important to me for several reasons. First of all, because it is an invitation, more from a friendly country. Russia and Burkina Faso are now working closely together. Our cooperation is quite strategic, which means we must come and take part alongside the Russian people. Secondly, in that same war, our ancestors also contributed to began the liberation of Europe by fighting against Nazism. Omo, which means we share a common history in celebrating this victory. Omo, and that is very important. And another thing is that today, Russia and Burkina Faso are fighting the same battle. We have a world that I would describe as unilateral, sunless, and we want a multipolar world. We want a free, independent world, a world of peace, where nations do not dictate to other nations what they should do and how they should be. So
That's
Russia is actively engaged in this struggle, which is also a fight for denazification, if I may say so, and we too are engaged in the same kind of struggle against imperialism that wants to subjugate us, that wants to keep us in slavery. So we share the same perspectives, so it was very symbolic. We have just taken part in this celebration.
In particular, the Soviet people contributed greatly to defeating Nazism, and the Burkinabe, as you rightly say, are now making efforts to fight and eradicate terrorism. Do you see similarities between our two peoples? And how do these similarities manifest themselves more concretely?
Yes. I have learned many lessons from this celebration, and there are many similarities in the struggle we are currently waging. Look, the Soviet people sacrificed nearly 27 million lives to achieve this victory. At one point, they could have said, that's enough, signed an armistice and given up. But it was their courage, tenacity, and resilience that made them continue the fight. And in the end, they won. Burkina Faso has been fighting against terrorism for 10 years. Now, it's not that there haven't been any deaths. There have been many deaths from that time until today. But we do not give up because we know we will achieve victory, and we continue this fight. So there is this mindset that unites us, and that's also what is very important in these moments.
And how do you analyze the influence of the Soviet victory in the Second World War on the process of decolonization in Africa? What do you think would have happened if we try to imagine? What would have happened to Africa if Nazism had won?
It contributed a lot, I can say. Now, if Nazism had won, I can't even imagine. But I suppose, people did not respect black people. Even today, it still goes on. Black people have always been labeled as subhuman. Some actually saw us as animals. You know the stories of colonization, of slavery. Black people were tortured, displayed in cages like wild animals in Europe and all that. Black men were castrated to prevent them from even having offspring. Black people were treated as less than animals. You know that. In Congo, cardboard was considered more valuable than black skin. They preferred to dry rubber on black people's skin rather than pay for cardboard to dry the rubber.
All right. What he's about to start talking, well, at least that part, the Congo, that's Leopold. Leopold was in charge of the Congo. And we don't know a goddamn thing about King Leopold. We know about Hitler and the 6 million Jews that he killed during what the Holocaust is. We know about it. We've seen movies about it. They talk about it every fucking year, and rightly so. But we don't talk about the 10 million Congolese people that died as a result of King Leopold's policies and practices. Because, King Leopold himself did not kill anyone. Neither did Hitler. But Hitler's policies and programs, or whatever the fuck you want to say, got 6 million Jews eliminated, unalived. They were thrown in the ovens and worse, right? And the same about King Leopold. The difference between Hitler and King Leopold is Hitler killed white people. That's what makes him the most evil man on the planet. Leopold killed black people. And like you just heard our brother, President Captain Ibrahim Traoré, say, they did not value black people. They looked at them as subhuman, as animals. so much so that they dried the rubber on the skin of the Congolese people as opposed to paying for cardboard or any other medium to dry the cardboard. So just keep that in mind. King Leopold, real piece of shit.
Black people have suffered greatly. So slavery for centuries and centuries, colonization, this war. You see, they came and took our ancestors without their consent, sent them to the slaughterhouse on the front lines. Oh, and when they returned, as you know what happened in Senegal, when they tried to claim their money, they were killed. In other words, they do not consider black people at all. And yet, they went to fight alongside the so-called allies who treated them like that. But imagine if Nazism had won. It would have been a disaster. That's why I say it was a fight that had to be fought. It was utter madness in the world. It was a fight that had to be fought, and Africa took part in it. And today, we can say thank you, because the people who made the greatest sacrifice were the Soviet people. No one lost as many men. No one experienced as much destruction during the war as the Soviet people. So we are grateful, and I think it was necessary for the world to be as it is today, and for Africa to be able to hope to continue as well.
Thank you very much for your answer. Mr. President, you recently declared that Burkina Faso will be the graveyard of terrorism. Are you setting concrete deadlines to completely defeat it? And how do you see Russia's future assistance regarding this, one of the main pillars of the Russia-Burkina Faso partnership?
I said that because in Burkina Faso we are working so that today there are many criminals that they recruit to come and fight in Burkina Faso. This is not terrorism. I don't know how to describe it. It's criminality.
And what he's talking about now is how the CIA, United States, the Central Intelligence Agency, goes around and hires terrorists. They created ISIS and ISIL and every other terrorist organization. They put every puppet leader in, they installed them. But anyway, he's talking about how the CIA is bringing in terrorists and mercenaries and conscripts and whatever other type of miserable bastard there is to come in Burkina Faso and fight to destabilize the country, overthrow the president, and keep them in a perpetual state of war so that they never truly unite and accomplish their set goals of independence and security and sovereignty. Let him finish. I'm gonna let him finish.
These are bandits who have been armed by the imperialists to destabilize us, to keep us in a state of perpetual war, and to exploit us. And so, as I said, we are working to make Burkina Faso the graveyard of terrorism. When someone is recruited to come and fight in Burkina, it should be so that he would rather commit suicide. And that will happen. Because they equip them, they train them, and they give them technology, these criminals, but we are constantly adapting. Right now we are in a rather unique phase. They have acquired new technologies, new combat techniques, and everything else, thanks to the support of those imperialists. Now that we are in the process, we have studied the situation, and we are going to respond to all of this immediately. So you will see terrorism will come to an end. I don't want to set a deadline, but terrorism will end, and very soon, as quickly as we can. With Russia,
terrorism will end. Listen to that man. He sounds convinced, right? Because he has conviction. He believes.
We are really asking for is mainly intellectual support. That is, to help with intellectual training in our military industry, which we need to develop, and to help train young people in everything we can develop to face this war. That is the part that interests us the most.
Mm-hmm. And more specifically, what materials or perhaps what equipment interests you the most?
First of all, I can say thank you, because Russia is one of those rare countries in the world that has provided us with military equipment to help us fight this war. So that is significant. Apart from Russia and China, there is no one else. In fact, it's even worse elsewhere. There are places where we want to pay, but they refuse to sell to us. But now they have understood that we are at war. Russia is also conducting its special operation. We know it's not easy, but if, despite that, they were able to provide equipment and come to support Burkina Faso, I think that's already very important. But as I said, Russia is helping to train us for everything we purchase. Russian soldiers train Burkinabe soldiers on how to use this equipment and all that. But we want to continue developing our own military industry with the support of Russia, which is very far ahead globally, I would say, when it comes to weaponry. So we need to have this close collaboration so that we can make progress in our war.
Thank you very much.
You heard him say that Russia is very far ahead, even though the United States military is greater. Our Air Force is greater. Our Navy is greater. Um, our Army is greater. Delta Force, and the Marines. Hoorah! You know, they're just in a class by themselves. Um, he just said Russia is ahead in weaponry. They have Satan 1 and Satan 2, right? I mean, do we really got to explore what the fuck they are? And they also have an EMP weapon that if they just sent that, um, they'll push us back into the dark ages. That'll fry the grid, and our grid is already vulnerable. So, yeah, we might be the bigger, badder bully, but if I got a bigger stick, I'll bust your big ass.
So this past year has been marked by major changes for the Sahel and for each of the AES countries in particular, such as, for example, the definitive break with ECOWAS, and also the adoption of their own symbols, like the common flag. In this context, how would you describe Burkina Faso before and after? And how do you assess the alliance of Sahel states as a format for regional cooperation? Are there any plans for expansion, perhaps?
Yes. To understand the AES today, you just have to look at the African youth. I think that African youth are hopeful that this is a model of unity. And for us, the leaders of the AES, it puts pressure on us. We have to succeed because Africa now needs to unite. We were in an organization that was supposed to be a relationship based on solidarity, cooperation, mutual assistance, and all that. But you can't be in an organization where you call each other brothers, and then at some point the electricity is cut so that patients die in hospitals and the economy comes to a halt. They close the banks so that you can't access anything. Your transfers to buy the bare essentials, medicine, and so on. This was prevented for certain Sahelian peoples. They even formed an army to come and fight against Sahelian peoples. While terrorism has been raging for decades and they have been incapable of sending a single soldier to help fight it. These are not brothers. We shouldn't fool ourselves. And it's not the people, it's the leaders. Otherwise, when you look at the people, even in these ECOWAS countries, all the people support and understand the momentum of the AES. So that reassures us and encourages us to organize ourselves to be a model, so that in the future, it can expand. That's it. But in order to expand, we need to establish strong foundations. And that's exactly what we are doing right now. So that's more or less what led us to withdraw and to organize ourselves in order to relaunch.
Mr. President, for many people in Africa, you are more than just the president of a country. In fact, you are seen as the embodiment of a renewed Pan-Africanism. Why does Africa today, in particular, need, if I may say so, a new Thomas Sankara? How does it actually feel for you to take on all this responsibility at only 37 years old?
Age doesn't matter, but
37 years old. I'm reminded that most of the great leaders were young men, right, and died young. They were unalived young. The most impressive, in my estimation, was Fred Hampton, right? By the time he was 21, he had become the greatest threat to national security, a black messiah. This man here, Ibrahim Traoré, President Captain Ibrahim Traoré, is 37 years old, and puts me in the mindset of those great leaders: a Malcolm, a Martin, a Medgar, a Hampton, um, a Vesey, a Garvey, and all of the other great leaders that came and went. And it's got to be a lot of pressure on him. And again, we have to make sure that we pray for that man, because at such a young age to have this much responsibility gotta be overwhelming.
I can say it's a lot of pressure. It's pressure. You shouldn't let it go to your head or turn it into delusions of grandeur. It's pressure. For me, it's a message that the youth are sending me, and that puts even more pressure on me. If I used to be able to sleep 2 hours, now I've cut my sleep down to just 1 hour. And if it means not sleeping, then you have to sleep even less. Because they must have seen something, surely something we're doing, that in their view could help Africa get out of this situation. And for us, that encourages us, it remotivates us to keep fighting. That's why I say it's pressure. It's a very heavy responsibility. And I can promise that the one thing we can do is not to betray. It's to continue along our line of Pan-African struggle, hoping that it can inspire all African youth, and that the Pan-Africanism we so deeply wish for can become a reality. Because Africa has suffered a lot. It's time for us to unite, work together, and develop. Just as Africans go elsewhere to see what's out there, everything that exists. In Africa, it's possible. It is possible. So this is our mission, and we are going to take it on.
Mr. President, more and more African countries are asserting their sovereignty and demanding the withdrawal of Western troops from their soil. Recently, for example, Chad, Senegal, and Côte d'Ivoire have made similar requests. In your opinion, where did the West go wrong in its relations with the African continent?
Well, what I know is our own situation. We were at war, we lived alongside Western troops and all that. We saw and we decided to part ways with those troops because it doesn't fit with our struggle. On the contrary, it actually makes the problem worse. As for the other countries that have separated, I can't speak for them because they made their own decisions to separate. But then President Macron said that he was the one who told them to find a solution and all that. I can't get into that debate. Only they know the truth. But one thing is certain. You can't talk about sovereignty while having another country's army on your soil telling you what to do. The economy, education, the entire development of a country is based on the military. So every country should develop its own army, be sovereign and independent. And that's exactly what we are doing. When I look at the case of Burkina, their armies were present, and that contributed to weakening the Burkinabe army. They stopped recruiting. It was them who decided how many people should be recruited. There was more weaponry recruited. There was more weaponry, equipment and everything. Even back in '98 under Sankara, we were better equipped. And then, well, 10 or 20 years later, and in the end, terrorism came in. When terrorism arrived, we didn't have an army. We're still suffering from it to this day. It's in the midst of war that we are now building an army. So it's normal that it takes a bit of time we're suffering, but we have to build an army. And when we come out of this war, we must come out stronger. That's what I'm saying. When I look at the statistics of the Soviet army, the number of men they lost.
I had the mic off. You didn't hear me probably, but I was saying that he mentioned Macron. So I'm saying fuck Macron and his man wife. And shout outs to Candace Owens, who exposed that Brigitte Macron is a man, will always be a man. It's just dressing as a woman. And go ahead. Shout outs to Candace Owens. Thanks you for that expose.
But when the war was over, they came out much stronger. And today, no army has the equipment that the Russian army has. So we too must learn from our war. When the war is over, we must be very strong. Sovereignty begins with the army. Once you have a strong army, all the other sectors can easily develop. That's what I can say. That's what led Burkina, in any case, to part ways with those armies.
All right. Another important issue that persists is the Ukrainian situation. Russia has declared itself ready to negotiate without preconditions, while Ukraine is constantly imposing constraints. Moreover, Kiev supports terrorists in the Sahel. In your opinion, who does not want peace for our two countries?
Who does not want peace? Who wants to join NATO? Who wants to invade Russia? The Ukraine and Zelensky are a bunch of terrorists. Never mind that he's an actor and a flaming, flamboyant duck, an odd duck. They don't want peace. They want war, and they want America to fund that war and provide them with the weapons. Well, we're done. No more welfare for you people.
I think that even before now, it was the Turkish President Erdogan who managed to create a framework for dialogue, and I believe the two presidents met at that time. It was only at the beginning of the operation. And all of us hoped that it would lead somewhere, that the weapons would fall silent and that everyone would return to good intentions. But it was the Westerners who came and told the Ukrainian president not to accept. We followed all that. And in the end, what did it lead to? Well, I think all of this is part of a manipulation. I think they were manipulated. Otherwise, the Ukrainian and Russian peoples were the Soviet Union. They are brothers. How is it that hatred and Russophobia were able to be cultivated within this population? The war didn't start in 2022. It started in 2014. This is also a reality that many people perhaps don't know, or that people refuse to talk about. It was in 2014 that the war began. And today, people are surprised to see that the blame is perhaps being shifted onto Russia and all that. When civilians, Russian speakers were being bombed in 2014, who spoke up? There are images that still exist. People were locked in houses and burned. There are images that are there, but action should have been taken all this time. They were manipulated, and today the reality is plain to see. You see, all the aid that was given, it wasn't really aid. They were told to hand over their minerals. In reality, Ukraine no longer belongs to the Ukrainians. They were manipulated, and now they are the losers. All sectors will be managed by those who led them into this war. The hope was to weaken Russia, but Russia is coming out of this war even stronger. So I think they need to understand this and come to their senses in order to negotiate and achieve peace. Because they have declared that they support the terrorists. Did you all follow that? And we can also see on the ground that they are indeed supporting the terrorists. This is not a good war. I think they are completely mistaken. They need to come to their senses. In any case, they can support them, but we will fight them and we will win.
We will fight them and we will win. They support what's happening in as far as terrorism in Burkina Faso. The people fighting to destabilize the nation and overthrow President Captain Ibrahim Traoré. They were set up. He said they were set up. We know who set them up. the Biden administration. Put the battery in their back. Shout outs to no batteries. Put the battery in their back, gas they dumb ass up, put actor in office and wrote him a script and he follows it. And now they're losing. And unfortunately for the people, the Ukrainian people, Ukraina, right? That's how you say it. They're the ones suffering. Russia is not going to lose, and they're not going to allow the Ukraine to become part of NATO. They can't. Ukraine is part of the Iron Curtain. If Ukraine becomes a part of NATO, if they join NATO, then NATO is primed to invade Russia, and they're not going to have that. And Putin is within his right to, completely eliminate them, the whole goddamn country, if he has to, and start anew. That's a harsh position, but it's what we would do. When the Soviet Union had missiles in Cuba, this was under the Kennedy administration, we immediately told them that's part of our, they're too close to the United States. We're not having it. Come get your missiles and get them the fuck out of here. This is what Putin is saying. Back up, take your NATO shit away from the Iron Curtain, and Ukraine fall in line. Otherwise, I'll take you back. And he should. Pripyat, Pripyat, Crimea. He should take all that back and smack Zelensky. I would put him in front of a firing squad for what he's done. And knowing that he's just a puppet doesn't matter. I would do him because he's not going to give up the puppet master. And the puppet master is just, you know who it is. It's the United States and NATO. It was the United States. I don't think Trump has anything to do with it in that sense, but it's the United States under the Biden administration, the Biden cabal, the Biden family, criminal mother.
So if they still haven't understood by now that this whole maneuver was meant to bring them down and seize their critical minerals, they can keep waging war. So that's what I can say about the situation. Every people must understand that they need to avoid being manipulated and getting into a very complicated situation. That's about all I can say.
Thank you very much for that answer. Mr. President, what do you think of the Sputnik news agency and its role in the African media landscape? In what way are these contents appealing to African audiences? And in your opinion, what is the main difference with mainstream media?
The press is very important. Communication, you know that it's through the press that people's minds are shaped. So you already play a very important role by bringing out a part of the truth about history and the present. You must continue in this direction to awaken people's awareness. Because you see, it's all this Western press and all that which have contributed to putting the African people's consciousness to sleep. It's their narrative that gets through and all that. And we've been able to realize that often they invent big lies just to divide people, to allow their policies to act and do whatever they want, to prepare the ground and everything. So you need to do the opposite of what they do. That is, contribute to awakening people's awareness, and you have an important role to play, especially in Africa itself. Africans need to understand their own history, wake up and stop believing the lies of those Western media outlets. You see, when it doesn't suit them, when they're told the truth, they shut down the media. And with us, when a media outlet is shut down, it becomes a huge issue. And what's unfortunate is to see even Africans supporting this. Over there, they shut down media whenever they want, whenever it doesn't please them. Or those same people don't say a word. But when we shut down media outlets, you see so-called intellectual Africans on TV panels. We don't know what they've taken, but it's dangerous. So you have a very important role to play, and all the media as well, in awakening the consciousness of Africans. So I say that we are here so that young people wake up. We're not here with the intention of looting or anything like that. We want to build Africa. And if the youth are not awakened, they will be lulled to sleep. We get praised by these Western media saying we're doing well. But no, that's not true. We want people to know when things aren't going well for us. That's it, and for others to take over when needed. But when they lie and say things aren't going well, we'll prove the opposite. So keep communicating and raising awareness in Africa. That's it.
Thank you very much. Mr. President, following the statements made by the AFRICOM commander before the US Senate, your government responded firmly, denouncing unfounded accusations regarding Burkina Faso's sovereign choices. What do you say to those, especially in Washington, who continue to question the legitimacy of your current partnerships, particularly with Russia? And how do you intend to defend Burkina Faso's image on the international stage in the face of this kind of rhetoric?
Right now, that's a good question, right? Because what they're referring to is General Langley and how he said that Traoré is stealing the gold, using it for his own security, and yada yada yada, right? He's the black man. He's the William O'Neill. He's the Judas. He's the who else? I'm just gonna ignore that. He's the traitor that they sent a black man to depose another black man. There's, like I said in the earlier interviews, in the earlier videos of the interviews, why is there always an ample supply of ready, willing, and able black men, sellout Sambo, coon ass niggas, just ready to take up arms against another black man, and all he's trying to do is empower his people, enlighten his people? Why? Why is there always a William O'Neill? Why is there always a Judas? There are so many. I named them in the other video, but I can't think of them right now. But why are they always ready? And what he's talking about now is General Langley. Check him out.
In any case, we are free to establish relationships with whomever we choose. That is what independence means. So, on this point, they can continue to think whatever they want. We will go wherever we want. As long as this partnership can, in any case, be mutually beneficial for both parties. As for his remarks, as you mentioned, we protested through the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. That's one thing, but I don't know what happened with that general. There is still an issue, and I would perhaps like him to admit his mistake if he was sent, and to understand that this was not the right mission. If he was misled, he should say so publicly, or otherwise admit before the Senate that he was mistaken. Or also, if it was done with bad intentions, well, we will confront him as we should, because everything he said is a lie. And it's really shameful to see an adult lie, to see an adult, a general officer of a great army lie. It's very serious. First, he talked about Burkina's gold being used for what? For us to protect ourselves and all that. First of all, it's Burkina's gold, it's not his gold. That's the first thing. What business is it of his? It's none of his business. It's Burkina's gold. It doesn't concern him. Second, he's lying. Because Burkina never had any gold reserves until we came. We are the ones who started setting aside gold in the treasury of Burkina Faso. Otherwise, there wasn't a single gram of gold reserves in Burkina. That means he's lying again. And another thing, when he says that we use it to protect ourselves and all that, we're free. If the people have decided that we should govern them, we have a duty to protect ourselves. So we are free. What business is it of his? And the part that hurt me the most, not because he's a general or because he's American or anything like that, but because he's black.
Bring it out.
And it really hurts, Ruku, to see a black person being used to fight against another black person. And this didn't just start now. It needs to stop. You see, it's very dangerous. Even Libya, who destroyed Libya?
Obama.
Once again, they used a black person.
Hillary.
Once again, they used a black person. In movies, back in the day, in America, black people always played the villain. But we told ourselves, it's just in the movies. But why do black people have to keep playing the bad guy? And I think that if he heard this interview, he should look at himself in the mirror, feel ashamed, come out and say, well, I was given a false report. I regret it. He needs to say it publicly. If it was a false report, then it was made up, because it's possible. It's possible that he was given a false report, that he should reveal it, because you saw, when I take another neighbor, again, as I say among us, a black man, the Ivorian Minister of Defense, who goes around, travels to Turkey, meets the Turkish Minister of Defense, and tells him, you must not sell weapons. You see how much that hurts. When it's a black person who behaves like that, it really hurts. Did they make a false report? Let him come out and deny it. If he was sent to create a problem in Burkina, as they are used to doing, well, we will get ready. We will be waiting for them, because this has to stop now. The black race should not be used to fight against black people. And every time it's the same thing. It's always the same thing. And that's what we deplore. And that really hurt us, to see that it was a black man making those statements. It's true that they may try to make amends through various channels. They try to make up for it. But now, since it was said publicly, it needs to be corrected publicly. That's how we see it. We're no longer engaging in diplomatic hypocrisy, as we like to say. To say things loudly and clearly, and then come back later and say, no, we're sorry, we didn't mean it, that's not enough. It needs to be said publicly. So I urge them to make amends, to say it publicly, because African youth have understood, black youth all over the world have understood. This kind of manipulation doesn't work anymore. That's how it's always been, using false pretext in hopes of achieving other goals. It doesn't work anymore. So it's unfortunate, but Burkina Faso remains true to its path. We will continue to develop ourselves. And he forgot to mention everything we are doing for Burkina Faso. What we are accomplishing, no previous regime has achieved. That's it. The socio-economic development of Burkina Faso. Who has done that? Look, we are building many health centers, equipping them with medical devices for examinations, and lowering the costs of medical tests. Which regime has done the same? No one. We are taking action in agriculture, plowing farmers' fields for free. Our production is increasing, and so on. Who has done it? No one. The army? We are in the process of creating a new army. The Burkinabe army has never been as well staffed or as well equipped as it is now. Who has done that? No regime. When it comes to jobs, no regime has created as many jobs as we have. Industrialization. Maybe that's what bothers them, what they want to stop, and so they have to make up lies. In any case, I invite them to reconsider their position. That's all I have to say. It's a big lie, yeah, and it's unfortunate.
Well, there you have it, people. That was the Sputnik Africa interview. I don't know the young lady's name who was interviewing him, but it was a great interview. Take note that he didn't um, use a script. He spoke from the heart. It wasn't scripted. He's a hell of a guy, and we should pray for him. There were a lot of talking points, and you should go back, and watch this again, um, because right now Ibrahim Traoré needs all the support that he can get, and I'm urging Americans as well as U.S. citizens, but Americans, Black, Hispanic, Latino, American Indians, and white, like white Anglo-Saxon Protestants, the descendants of the people who invaded this continent, conquered, captured, and enslaved its people, and built up this republic, not a democracy. I'm urging all Americans to stand in solidarity with Ibrahim Traoré. We don't really have an option. How dare you, white people, talk about make America great again and America first, and yet you don't want to stand in solidarity with this man. So I urge all of you, white, black, Latino, of indigenous descent, and Amerindians of North, South, Central America, but particularly here, North America, the United States of America. I urge you to stand in solidarity with this man. Pray for him. Pray for his safety. Pray for his success, because he's going to need all the help that he can get. Because as we know, the imperialist powers, they're not just going to lay down and let this man win. So keep him in your prayers. Pray for his family and his people. And, you know, Like, don't let them fool you. They're about to start saying that he's killing people and that he's stealing and that he's doing all kind of shit. With that, I'm going to say shalom, like, comment, subscribe, share, and we'll do this again soon.